Good afternoon, Tom Ginn, G-Force. G is for gratitude. Uh, when I was introduced to gratitude, it really changed everything on how I look at the world. Number one, gratitude eliminates negativity. It gives you a new perspective in a positive way, no matter what's happening. We're many times grateful for the good things that are happening, but even when we have struggles, we have losses and challenges. If we go to a space of gratitude, we can pull from that and gives you a different way to address. Instead of reacting, you learn to respond to whatever's going around you. And gratitude is what I call the mortars to the bricks of life, with some other principles. And this whole program that I do is all about bringing, my Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays is about teaching these principles around gratitude, what I use in my coaching program, and bringing in guests that have great messages and stories that can hopefully will resonate with you, or know somebody. So we'd like you to make sure that you're tagging and sharing this out, because we never know how the message is going to be received and who can influence. So we just ask that you do that. I see we got a couple people on here. If you would like to make a comment, where are you from? And that'd be much appreciated, and acknowledge you coming in. And before I introduce my guest, I'd like to make some announcements. Starting next week, again, I'm rolling out my corporate sponsor. And I won't get into today, but there'll be some information that you can find out more about my corporate sponsor here through that link tree. Anytime you want to reach out to me, my calendar link is there as well. Here to answer questions or serve you any way I can. So be free to reach out to me through my calendar. But the announcements, Mark Gassert and I, through the Grow Live Academy, do a program on Mondays called Elevate Your Profits. And we bring in different people that are in business, maybe things they're doing to help. Maybe that person is looking to go into business, or that solopreneur or an entrepreneur. So we bring people in to show you there's a different path. And if you're in that path of entrepreneurism, be in business for yourself, we interview people. And my guest this next Monday, I've got a great woman in New York that works with authors and budding entrepreneurs, a public relation person out of New York. And she wanted me to interview this woman on Monday, Lynn Eichenbaum. I hope I say this correct. Napi Glove Company. She is a very crafty woman. She's created a line of gardening gloves, which I won't share with you today. But so you want to make sure you turn on your notifications for Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern to hear this dynamic woman talk about her journey, her passion, and how she's taken that passion around her craft and her hobby and turned it into a very lucrative business. So you can take your hobbies and turn them into business, that if you have the right strategy. So you're going to learn from Lynn on Monday. So turn on your notifications. With no further ado, I want to bring in my guest. Before I interview, we got acquainted through Charles Coachman's Bible readings, live readings. Charles had surgery and had to step out while he's recovering. He's going to come back on Monday. And I was asked to, help out and do some reading. And so come to know Fitz here, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to introduce him, have him tell his story. So that's how we're linked up through Charles Coachman, his Bible reading program every day at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern. So turn on your notifications for Charles Coachman to hear the power of the word and glorify him by hearing his words on a daily basis. So, Fitz, I'm going to bring you in. Are you ready? Yeah,
I'm ready,
are live, my friend. You are live.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for having me. G-Force is a great program. I'm just honored to be here.
It's my honor to have you. You know, knowing a little bit of background about you. What I'd like you to do is just, share a little bit about your journey to where you are today, a little bit about your background, where you're from, anything about your family, your career, what you've done, where you are today, and we'll sort of start with that, and then we'll get into, maybe we're going to be what I call gunslinging it today. We'll go from one topic to another and one thought to another. Is that good for you?
That's fine with me, Tom. That's fine. Well, I grew up on the west side of Chicago in one of the suburbs, Oak Park, and no matter where I've lived, I've always called that home, even though I've lived in some spectacular places. I graduated from high school at Oak Park Forest High School, and then I went to the University of Missouri in Columbia. It had a really good journalism school, and I wanted to be a sports writer. That's what I thought.
Fitz, you're breaking up on me just a little bit, so I don't hear you at all, Fitz. Fitz, thumbs up if you hear me. I don't hear you at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. I'm on my phone and with this broadcast, and I was getting a phone call. So
okay.
for some reason, StreamYard does not like my laptop this week.
Okay.
So and I'm sorry it's annoying, but I'm on my phone. But getting back to it, I graduated from the Oak Park Forest High School, and I wanted to be a sports writer. I thought that was going to be it for me. I had a cousin who was the sports writer for the Chicago Sun-Times, and he influenced me a little bit when I was young. And I was the sports editor of the school paper my junior and senior year. I played a little ball. So mentorship and coaching started real early.
And so
And then went on to the University of Missouri, Columbia. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to, go ahead, Fitz.
Then went on to the University of Missouri. And little did I know that in order to get into the journalism school, you had to have a 3.85 grade point average once you got on campus. Well, that wasn't happening, Tom. I'm sorry. So I went over to the radio, TV, and film school. I had already had some introduction to radio. As sports editor, I was asked to provide 15 minutes of content for WBEZ in Chicago, which was a national public radio station. And that was in my junior high school year. So then my senior year, they made it a half an hour show. And I interviewed people like Ray Meyer from DePaul. I interviewed Bobby Knight from Indiana.
Oh, wow.
Different things like that. Now that's as a high school senior. So I go off to Missouri, and lo and behold, they have a national public radio station, KBIA, and it was all volunteer work. So I would work a lot at KBIA, doing a lot of different types of shows, I would also, they had a subcarrier, and I would read the newspaper and magazines to the blind to kind of hone my craft. And Missouri was good to me. For the best years of my life, a lifelong friend, Myron Jackson, and I were roommates. He was the engineer type, and I was the on-air talent type. So we did pretty good for each other. And he still is one of my best friends. And he runs a community radio station in Kabul, Missouri. And so he's living the dream that we both had. And I was in the radio business for 20 years until I met my wife. And she was the manager of sales and marketing for a mall developer, and I was doing a live remote at her mall. And I don't know if there is such a thing as love at first sight, but it was love the next day. And we've been together now 37 and a half years.
Oh, wow.
And
congratulations.
Yeah. And she's a peach. She really is. Very, very smart, very accomplished woman, hard worker, a loving person. And you talk about somebody that knows her scripture. She sure is that too. So she's a joy in my life. We've been business partners, we've been life partners, and we've been husband and wife for 37 and a half years.
Do you have children, or?
When I met my wife, she had 3 children.
Okay.
So I tell people they're her children, but they're my grandchildren. I have three wonderful grandchildren. A boy who just became a father, which made me a great grandfather, and that's Dalton. And then my oldest granddaughter, his sister is Claudia, and Claudia just graduated from Georgia State University, and she is working at a medical placement company in Atlanta. And then my youngest granddaughter, Emma, is 17. And Emma is a miracle. That's all I can say. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's active, and she has drive. She is the senior dance captain for the band. She models, she works, and she's in what they call here in Florida the IB program, which is an accelerated program. And that's when she graduates in May from high school, she'll have enough college credits to get an associate's degree. So she'll waltz into pretty much any school she wants to go to as a sophomore.
Wow.
And so, and she thinks child psychology will be a good field for her.
Wow. Wow. You're definitely a proud grandpa there. So having a gift like that in your life. Hey, I want to go back to something real quick. When you did the interview with, who was it, Bobby Knight, and who was the other person you mentioned?
Ray Meyer.
Ray Meyer. And you were what, still in high school when you did that?
I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, those are pretty predominant people in sports history, right? And
yeah.
Let me ask you this. I know I would have probably just frozen my track in awe and not knowing what to say or ask. How did that experience go for you? Being a young person, talking to some very influential, dynamic coaches. How was that experience?
Well, with Ray Meyer, his son, Tom, coached basketball at my high school. So I would regularly. So when it came time to try to get him on the air for my show on WBEZ, Tom interceded for me. So, and I was provided with a list of questions just so I didn't go out of bounds.
Okay.
So after I had Ray Meyer under my belt, it was time to take on Bobby Knight, and that's when they were winning all the championships. Scotty Moe, Bobby Wilkerson, Quint Buckner, all those guys. And I had been to a journalism camp at Indiana University at a time when they were running summer drills. So I got to meet Coach Knight. So it was an easier phone call to make, to tell him, hey, could you take 15 minutes with me at this time and on this station? And he was what you'd expect. He was a gentleman. He was an encourager. He really didn't know me from the man in the moon. But, you take experiences like that and you just run with them, and it gives you the confidence to do it again, do it over and over and over again. I think it's helped me in my sales career to basically have no fear, to be confident enough to pick up the phone. I fell into the radio or the real estate business quite by accident. My dad sold candy for Brock's Candy back in the day, and he always told me, use your brain, not your back, and if you can help it, don't get into sales. And I fought it for a long time, but it was clear that I needed to find a more substantial income source, for my wife and our life together. So I had met this woman. She sold mugs and pens and buttons and stuff for radio stations. And at one point, I was an announcer on a radio station where she did business. And then I became the general manager of another radio station in the same town. And I brought her in to order all our supplies. And she came from, she married into a substantial family. She was very substantial herself. She's from, oh my gosh, she's in Wisconsin, and I can't remember. It's right across from Dubuque, Iowa. But I'm not pulling up the name right now, Tom. Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and her dad was a very influential banker. Well, she married into a family of real estate moguls and insurance moguls in the Quad City area, Davenport, Iowa, Rock Island, Illinois, Bettendorf, Iowa, and Moline, Illinois. And so when they were going to change the big band format into more contemporary radio station, said to me, you've done a really good job here, but sorry, we're going in a different direction. And
well, Fritz, we lost Fitz here, so he will come back in. So I'm just going to continue. There he is back. He's back in. You lost internet connection or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. I don't know why that's happening. But I do apologize, but it's beyond my control. But anyway, I went to this lady and I said, here's my resume. Would you, show it to your influential friends around the Quad Cities? I knew they knew some people that owned radio and TV stations and things like that. Well, the next day her husband calls me and he says, come on, I want to talk to you about a career in real estate. And I said to him, politely, I said, Mr. Rule, I said, my idea of a good time is not sitting in somebody's vacant house watching a 5-inch black and white TV to get the football games during an open house. And he goes, yeah, I know. I can see that by your resume. He says, why don't you just come talk to me? So I did, and he hired me on the spot and said, if you get licensed, you have a desk and a phone, and usually you have to spend a couple of years in residential, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move you right into commercial. So I went, I got my real estate license, and that was in 1987.
Okay.
And the Quad Cities wasn't a very, I mean, it was a good size area, maybe a 500,000 people back then. But still, when you're dealing with a fourth generation family, and your boss is fourth generation, his dad is third generation, his cousin is in the firm, and and it's like, well, okay, how am I going to make any money? Because everybody I call on, they've called on before, or they know them. So what I did is I took their name up and down the Mississippi River to the smaller towns who didn't have commercial real estate people. They had residential people trying to do commercial deals, but I brought a certain level of sophistication that they weren't used to. And I got on their real estate committees for their chambers of commerce and their development groups, and I became the local expert. My wife and I had moved to a great little town by the name of Muscatine, Iowa, where there were 53 industries represented in Muscatine. Very, very high discretionary income, very, very low unemployment. And it was wonderful. We lived there for 22 years. My wife is an Iowa girl, born and raised in Iowa City, Iowa, and all her children were born in Muscatine. But so it was a battle, and I remember sitting in the Drake Hotel in Chicago in 1989, and there were real estate executives from Bank of America, Balfour, General Electric, and Sony, and they're regaling to all of us NAI guys about how we can expect to do corporate real estate with their corporations. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, holy cow, I don't even know if my credit card is going to clear the Drake Hotel. So I wasn't paying much attention. And then the moderator came on and he said, you have just heard some of the best real estate minds in the world. And you know what it gets down to? Do more deals. Do more deals. And the light bulb went on. It's as simple as that. You control your own destiny in this business. If you need more money, make more money. Do the things that other people weren't willing to do.
Yeah.
Differentiate yourself. So I decided I was going to reinvent myself into a corporate real estate professional. And I would only call on Fortune 500 companies that were in a day's drive of my office, because I like to be home every night. I like to sleep in my own bed with my wife. And so that's what I did. And being in Chicago, many of those Fortune 500 companies were headquartered in Chicago, so I knew my way around the city. And I started, quite honestly, with Amoco Oil. They were at the top of the list. And I got the meeting. We sat down. I told them what I thought I could do for them. And they liked what they heard, and then they hired us. So for the next 9 years, I led a team of brokers.
You're breaking up just a little bit. A thumbs up if you can hear me. You're frozen. So well, ladies and gentlemen, we are stuck in the cyberspace of the internet. So he's off, and the reason I bring in people like Fitz and that is that we all have a journey, and opportunities are presented to us on a regular basis. And it's just, understanding what's your desire. He had a passion for sports and moved into, broadcasting and in the radio space, but he met his beautiful wife. And there was a different economic need to be filled. And so he didn't let the obstacles of working in a small operation with people of influence hold him back. And building that character, building confidence, this is so important. And Fitz hopefully will be coming back on here in a second. But, it's no matter where we are, there are unlimited opportunities around us. And you just have to determine. I'm going to just go into some of my teaching that, gratitude powers your why. Powers your why. Why are you here today? What is your purpose today and in the future? And in what I teach is when you get clear on your why, that end result of, what is your eulogy going to be, your legacy, and all those things, knowing your why. And that will drive, when you're clear on that, the opportunities have always been there. The people have been there. And it overpowers fear when you get clear on your why. Fitz was fearless. If I had to interview or talk with any of those two people, knowing who, some of the insecurities I had as a person, a young person back there, I know it had probably been frozen in time. So we got Fitz back. Fitz, I'm going to put you in. Okay, here we go. We'll try again.
I'm very.
Hey,
I'm very
don't worry.
sorry.
You know what
I don't
do?
know.
I just start talking about your why, the power of the why, and how it opens up opportunities, having a vision, a purpose, and those type of things. So, yeah. So you Amico, right, was your first big corporate,
Right. Yep. And for the next 9 years, we bought and sold for them in 33 states. I amassed a brokerage team of 73 brokers in 33 states. And we bought and sold maybe $800 million for them. But while I survived the first British invasion when the Beatles came over, I didn't survive the next British invasion when BP bought Amico. And their leaders said, well, whatever the Americans are doing, stop it. So they didn't renew my contract in 1980. And it was like a death in the family. However, that led to relationships with Midas, Bridgestone Firestone, and McDonald's. I made the final cut with McDonald's to manage their portfolio of properties that they were either repurposing or getting rid of. And I came in second to CBRE, but I did have my proposal sent by a Ronald McDonald lookalike in a McDonald's food bag. So I think that's why I came in second.
when you were in Amico, so you were just buying properties for their stations and their convenient markets or whatever they were doing at that time. Is that what you did?
Yeah, it was called dual fuel, and it was a Amico convenience store on one side with gas pumps, and in the other half of the building was a McDonald's fast food restaurant with a drive-through.
I see. Okay.
And we did everything east of Kansas. You'll see some remnants of that still today. Maybe it's BP and Hardee's, maybe it's a Dunkin' Donuts and a Chevron,
Sure.
various things. Amico's philosophy was they would like to go in, and if they could, they would buy all four corners of an intersection, deed restrict 3 of them, and resell them so that they couldn't have any competition. So it was an education, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I got to a point in my career where I was at the top of the food chain. I became the executive vice president of rural and rural commercial. I had 30 brokers, 22 staff in 3 offices, and I was pretty much running the day-to-day operations, plus trying to sell. And I went to my boss, who is still a very good friend of mine, and we're having breakfast on Monday morning. And I said, what's my next step? And he said, well, you're going to be the first non-family president in 150 years. The company was started in 1862. Now, if you
Wow.
think about that, at that time in America, they were selling residential real estate and selling insurance policies to people like Abraham Lincoln. So I thought, wow, that's a pretty big opportunity. Kind of a big fish, little pond kind of thing. And then we tried to get into the mechanics of it, and they just hadn't thought it out enough. So they couldn't tell me if it was going to be a salaried position, was there a stock position, was there any ownership. And my boss's brother worked for me. So I asked them, will I ever have ownership? And they said, we don't think that that's part of the package. So I went home and I told my wife, and I said to her, we've been here 15 years and it's been a great run, but do we want to take this thing to Florida and own our own company? And because we already own property here, we would vacation here. And she said, let's give it a try. So I left there. It was a terrible day the day I left, because I left so many friends. There was so much love in the room. And I still stay in contact with those brokers and staff and different things. It's been 21 years now since I left. And we came down here and started NAI, at that time, Southwest Florida.
So it wasn't going to work out the way you had hoped it would be, putting your energies. So you decided to create your own entity, go into business for yourself.
Yep.
And that's
Yes.
And I always ask people this, when we make that jump into business, it's a whole different environment no matter what the business is. If you work for somebody and you want to transfer those skills, knowledge into your own thing, what was the biggest challenge you encountered making that shift, where somebody already had all the infrastructure, all the processes in place, and all the credibility in place, and all those things, and the people? What was the biggest challenge you had besides making that decision? That's a big challenge, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. But it was the day-to-day decisions at an ownership level that kind of confounded us for a while. Now, my wife is a marketer, and she also did the company books. But I mean, we had to find office space, we had to buy furniture, we had to set up the office, all the mundane things that we all take for granted. We had to do that, and it was time consuming, and that was not productive time for me as a salesperson, because it took me off the street. But the one thing I did learn from the company I was with in Iowa was get involved in your community. When I first came to Florida, I didn't have the money to advertise like my more established competitors. So what I did is I got on 10 different boards that were real estate or religious related. And I worked my way up the ranks and became in leadership in 9 of them. And when the recession hit, Tom, in 2007, 2008,
Yeah.
it almost took us out. We were writing checks every month to keep the doors open. There was hardly any business. Again, I had to reinvent myself, and I think one of my more significant deals is I sold apartment land in Nashville from my desk in Florida. And it's back to the adage: it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that served me well. But we put our nose to the grindstone, and toward the end of the recession, and we didn't know it was the end of the recession, somebody sent me something on an email, and I truly wish I can remember who sent that to me, because it saved my life. Keep using your influence to bring people to Christ. And it was a kick in the pants I needed. And I said to myself, I can do that. It doesn't cost me any money to do that. So I started using my influence. And every day I try to share my faith journey with someone uh, in some small way. And I'm sure you've picked up on my email signature. Have a red letter day. And that's my way of saying to you, Tom, have some Jesus in your day. Because in the Bible, wherever Jesus is quoted, the text is in red.
Yeah.
So that's what have a red letter day is.
Wonderful. Can I just make a comment here? Because I work in the personal development, and I usually ask who's your greatest influencer, and it's quite obvious who our greatest influencers are, our
Right.
Lord and Savior, right? But that email, and sort of I call it the wake up calls. We get those from time. I've recently had one that says questioning why am I here in this earth? What is my mission? How do I want to show up? And so that was the sort of the driving force that propelled you to the next level, is sharing, just sharing the good news, good positive stuff from that. So, and what did that do in your business?
Well, it's funny. In the year 2000, my wife marketed a thing called Spring Harvest 2000, and it was an interdenominational uh, tent meeting, if you will. And she was asked to do all the marketing. Well, that means I hung around, and they brought in an evangelist from Oregon, a guy by the name of Mike Silva, a dynamic young guy. And I had picked up rumors that the Baptist church in town was going to be looking for a new campus. And I thought, this is not the time to make overtures to the pastor of the Baptist church, because there were hundreds of people that for 3 nights came to hear this evangelist and renew their commitment to Christ. So, but afterwards, I went to the pastor and I said, it's my understanding that you're looking for a new place. So, long story short, they brought me to a breakfast of their real estate committee in a Denny's in the middle of our town. And I knew a lot of the men. I didn't know that they were church-going men. And the pastor said, "Hey, Larry, would you bless our food?" So he prayed out loud in the Denny's, which was totally unusual to me. I was raised a Roman Catholic. I'm an Episcopalian now. Praying out loud was just not part of my DNA when I was younger. So when we were done, they said, "Hey, Bill, would you bless us as we go on our way, and especially bless Kevin in his efforts?" So he did. I was flabbergasted. Then the next time I had a meeting with only 3 of them in the back room of an insurance agency, and they prayed again, and they prayed for me out loud. So it really was a sense of awareness, Tom. I ended up selling them a shopping center that had two vacant anchors, um, a grocery store and a discount place. And they had a what they called a worship Saturday night to raise money to purchase the center. And I'll never forget, the pastor was on stage. They had the big screen TVs and the praise band and the praise choir, and they were rocking and rolling. And they brought in vendors and all this kind of. I'm sitting in the back of the room, and I saw, maybe for the first time, how Christ worked in people's lives. The pastor got up, the camera focused on him, and he's crying. And he said, "Because of your generosity, we have commitments tonight of $3.7 million. This is our new home." And then the banker stands up from one of the big banks in Muscatine, and he says, "And I'll finance the other 3 million." So that was the first time, Tom, that I realized the power of prayer. And the next year, I had some land for sale, and somebody wanted to write a lowball offer. Well, the old Kevin Fitzgerald would have never put pen to paper. I would have just summarily dismissed it. But the new and improved model said, okay, I prayed for the seller, I prayed for the buyer, I prayed for me. And sure enough, we came to a suitable price, and we sold 164 acres of development land. And I truly believe, Tom, that today, the biggest influencer in my life, and I've had some good mentors and coaches, don't get me wrong, and my wife is a significant influence in my life, but the power of prayer and my love for Jesus Christ is what's helped me become who I am today.
Yeah. Can I make a comment on that? And it goes back to what I put up here. Know your why, start with your why. And people a lot of times take the things of the world and try to craft their why around that. And when we really get to that internal connection of why we're here, why we're really here, what are we here to serve and what to do that, all those opportunities that we in the material world start showing up,
Mm-hmm.
because the why draws that to you. And prayer is that energy. It just it does its work in ways that we can't comprehend. And I think
Right?
that goes back to, your faith. That's, why is not just the things of the world, why I do so, but what is really driving you? What are you here to serve? And then guess what? Answers were what? Delivered. They were
Yep.
always there, right?
Absolutely.
They were always there. It's only
Yep.
through own awareness do we start seeing what those God's gifts are out there for us. So I just thought I'd make a
Yep.
comment on that. So
No, that's great. That's a great comment. Great insight. So here I am today, still with now. I merged my company with a larger NAI company. So now I'm back to being a broker rather than doing day-to-day things. My wife's happier because she doesn't have to mess around with the books or marketing or anything. And we now have offices in Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Myers, and Naples, Florida.
yeah,
But NAI as a whole has 7,000 brokers in 55 countries.
that is a pretty significant entity there.
It is. Each branch is locally owned and operated, but we all fly the NAI flag. It started in 1978 in New Jersey.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, because I was looking at your resume. When we look at resumes, we look at people's track record. When we do a deep dive, what really helped them become successful, I believe, is when people know their purpose and mission in life, and everything aligns. Have you ever heard of Dr. Miles Monroe?
I have.
Okay. One of my clients turned me on to him. It's amazing what you learn when you're coach and you're mentoring. And you got to be open because people have their own gifts and wisdom and knowledge that we not even sometimes see. So one of my clients says, "Have you read or Dr. Miles Monroe?" Because I was coaching him and doing some of the things I was doing, and I says, "No." He says, "Man," he says, "he really brings a message clear about vision
Mm,
and what is your vision, the power of your vision, and how when you get clear on that, and that covers everything in life." Our spiritual life, our business life, our family life, our relationship lives, our hobby lives, the things of interest we do. When we get clear on it, everything becomes easy, not easier, easy, of ease,
yeah,
because they're in alignment.
it's all
Do
about
you think
balance.
that's what your faith has helped you get that vision clear, putting things in an alignment?
I think so, and I think it's about balance. There was a great mentor and coach I met in 1998. His name is Vance Caesar, and he taught me I've got to have more get tos than got tos. And he also taught me that I got to have more reds or more greens than reds. He and his wife, who's a clinical psychologist, deal with surviving breast cancer patients, and they go through their daytimers, their planners, at the end of every month, and they highlight in green those things that gave them energy, and they highlight in red those things that sucked energy from them.
Yeah.
So he always told me you have to have more greens than reds, and you have to have more get tos than got tos.
That sort of leads to something my wife says. She does a lot of mentoring and coaching and consulting as well in her field. Um, she says a lot of people can't identify what they really want, but she was very clear. Identify what you don't want, right? The energy suckers, or well, we just lost Fitz again. There, you're back again. Your phone must have rang, or what? Yeah, you're muted on me again, or you've got a call coming in. Can't hear me? I don't hear you.
Yep, there I am.
Okay.
See,
Yeah, so
when the phone rings, it throws me out.
okay. All right. Um yeah, so I don't know where I was just elaborating is the greens and the reds. And then you at some point you get very clear and it becomes obvious when they show up you don't, because it doesn't align with your values, your purpose,
That's
your
right.
mission. And it just
That's right.
you deflect them. And because too many people are reacting to all I call the silvery objects that are out there. Go here, go there, and get sucked energy, and it's not in alignment with their why or their purpose
Right.
and all that. So I just encourage anybody out there that's wanting to get clarity, get Dr. Miles Monroe. Yeah, he talks from a spiritual alignment with God and how that works. And I just encourage anybody out there. It's a great foundation of getting clear how to create your life that you want in an alignment with a higher priority or higher purpose. So, we talk about your influences. You mentioned your original mentor. Who was his name when you first got him? You still
Vance
lean into
Caesar.
him? Yeah.
Vance
So he's,
Caesar.
uh, you know, anybody else out there besides, the area of faith that you really, resonates with you and gives you a different perspective. Anybody out there that you'd recommend?
Well, no one famous, Tom, that everybody would. I had two other mentors in my career, and I still do. One is Steve Stevens. Steve was the general manager of the Rule Company, and kind of took me under his wing. And then when I got more involved in the NAI side of it through my corporate real estate, I met the executive vice president of NAI Global, and that was David Blanchard. And David and I are friends to this day. We traveled together on what they called the roadshow. We traveled to 16 different regions to talk about NAI and all the new things that we were proposing for the coming year. So they hold my feet to the fire, those two guys, and we're in regular contact, because the other thing that Vince Caesar said is you have to have your own board of directors.
Yeah.
And Tom, when you were talking about the alignment, and you talked about spiritual and financial and relation and your hobbies, that's how those coaches go. That you have to have a coach in each one of those, or a board member in each one of those disciplines. So it's really kind of funny. It's said a different way, but it end of the day, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then Vance also helped me create my own mission statement. The first time I tried to do it, it was about a page long because I wanted to include everything. And we got it down to that I live my life in the service of others with respect, dignity, clarity, and humor. And we review that once a year, but we've never had to change it.
You don't need to. It's all in alignment. There's nothing. It's a perfect. It's already perfect. So there's no need to change when we know it. And I think what you said there is that many times people are searching and they're looking for the big names, and that's fine because they're influential. They got great wisdom and knowledge. But some of your greatest influencers, people of wisdom, is your neighbor, a friend that has life experience. And you don't have to have the big name to tie into.
Amen.
And there's only one big name you want to tie into, right? Only one.
Exactly correct.
That's it. The greatest mentor that's ever walked is in the scripture, right? So, so I think that's important for people is get a board of directors, a master. Some people call it masterminds, but they're all alignment together. You support each other in a common mission and vision, and they hold, like you say, they hold you accountable. And I think that's important in every area of your life.
I agree.
We can fall off in a hurry, and we need to know somebody's there to help us get off the ground again. So, well, Fitz, I know we're getting here to the end of the hour here. Any closing thoughts you want to leave the people who see this live, or the people who see this on a replay? Anything about gratitude, how it plays an important role in your life, and how you approach gratitude?
I come into every situation, Tom, as a servant. I have that servant mentality, and I'm grateful for everything that God has given me, and I realize that everything that I have, everything I will have, came from Him. And I'm a vessel. I'm a caretaker, and this will come to an end at some point. And the great mystery is, and nobody knows when or how. But I believe that the next life is the one that I'm waiting for.
Yeah, the promise, the big promise. Yeah. So, well, thanks, Fitz. With a lot of gratitude. We just recently have, collaborated together, helping Charles out, and we continue praying for Charles and his final healing. Healing takes a while, and he's going to be jumping on again on Monday morning. So turn on your notification with Charles Coachman. He's committed to, get God's word out there on a regular basis, because we never know who's ready to receive. We never know, and the impact we have. So, and I appreciate what he's done. Has allowed us to meet. That's right, and that's a blessing itself. And and I know we'll maintain a relationship moving forward. What that looks like, that's going to be a different story. But thank you for being here, contributing and sharing your journey. So with that all said, my friend, hang in the
Thank
back
you.
room for a couple minutes because under contract you wanted blue M&M. So enjoy those while I sign off here, and then we'll jump back on. Okay.
Thanks, Tom. I'm so grateful for you and appreciate you.
Thank you much. And I want to say thanks for Charles for jumping on. Tag and share this out. Lana, thanks for jumping in and supporting today. Friday, a lot of people are trying to get out of town. So, but I appreciate your time, and I'm going to put you in the back room. We're going to sign off from G-Force today.
Thank you, Tom.
You got it, bud. Stories. I think they're important. The challenges we go through, the paths we go through, what causes to get clear and what we want is hearing other people's stories. If you're out there today, go to a place of gratitude. It settles everything down. It negates negativity, being grateful, even in time of struggle or time of loss, because in every situation, God has given us a sign of positivity, and take it and work it. And gratitude is, I call, the mortars of the bricks of life. So with that all said, again, turn on your notifications. Monday, Elevate Your Profits. We're bringing in Lynn Eckenbaum, a woman entrepreneur taking her craft and hobby and made a dynamic business. You don't want to miss that. And then next week on G-Force, we'll be diving deeper into the book, Simon Sinek, the lessons there of crafting your why. People don't care what you do and how you do it, all the degrees. People really care about why you do what you do in life. Learn to craft that in all areas of your life and watch what happens. It will amaze you when we get to that place. So with that all said, we are signing out. Everybody have a blessed weekend. Go Wisconsin Badgers. I got to put that in. They're playing Iowa. Fitz is over there. He's laughing. So, but anyway, we're going to have a good weekend watching that game tomorrow morning. So with that all said, everybody have a great day. God bless.